Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing okay. Hope you guys are staying safe. Today we're going to be working on VPSs. So we're going to be working on deploying a MERN application to a VPS. We're going to be using Hostinger's VPS for this one. Now, I already have a VPS, so I'm just going to show you how to set it up, get one from Hostinger, and how to set up your DNS for it. I'm going to be using mine as a subdomain of my actual domain. So I'm going to show you how to set all that up. Now, the difference between what I'm going to be showing you and what others might have shown you is mine's just going to be 10 steps. So in my 10, I'm going to break down the video into 10 different steps. And the first step is just going to be connecting to the VPS via an SSH. And then we're going to be updating the VPS. And then we're going to be installing Node.js runtime with it. We're going to be installing our mongodb as it's a MERN application, so we're going to be installing mongodb, and then we're going to be installing the PM2, which is a Node.js runtime process manager. So after that, we're going to have a reverse proxy, which is going to be run by Nginx. So yeah, we're going to be configuring that Nginx as a reverse proxy for our application. After doing so, we're going to be able to enable configuration of that reverse proxy by setting up a link. And then we're going to be able to secure our application with SSL using certbox and an Nginx plugin. And lastly, we're going to be able to open the necessary ports we need for the firewall. So just those 10 steps is how we're going to get our our MERN application deployed on Hostinger's VPS. So stay tuned. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you do enjoy this video and if you learned something from it. And yeah, let's get right into the video. So to begin, we just log into our Hostinger account and we can go over here to VPS. And as you can see, I currently have a VPS running, but if you don't, you just get a new plan. You go ahead and select any plan you want. This is not a sponsored video, so I don't have any promo codes or anything like that. So you go ahead and pick whichever one suits your needs. So whichever one you select, when you're done paying and all that, it's gonna ask you which processor or which OS you want to run on. You can just select Ubuntu. That's one I selected, so this is going to be an Ubuntu OS. And then when we're done, it's going to bring you over to your VPS. So so here is the page you're going to see for your VPS, and it's going to tell you that it's going to show you your public IP address. It's going to tell you what OS it is. Mine is going to be the Ubuntu 23.04 64-bit. That's one I selected. And you can go ahead and reboot and stop your VPS from here. So like I said, I'm going to be using mine, my VPS, as a subdomain for my actual domain. So for your domain, you're able to get a new domain via Hostinger. I already have a domain name, so I use boatluna.io, so that is my domain name, but I don't want to create a new domain for this VPS. So you can just come over to home. You can go over to your hosting, and with hosting, you just go straight down to your advanced and go to your DNS setup. All you're gonna have to do is, so if I go to my A records, all you're gonna have to do is, for this one I called it marvel.boatluna.io. That's the and it's pointing to my VPS. So you're just gonna create an A type, and this is if you want to make it a subdomain of your actual domain name. So I created an A type. I named it what I want the subdomain to be named. So in this instance, it's going to be named Marvel, since I'm going to be uploading a Marvel application that we created together on this channel. So I'm going to name it Marvel, and then I'm just going to point to when you go to VPS, it's going to show you your IP address, your public IP address. You're just going to copy that, and you can go back to your DNS, and you're just going to point to, so the content where it says point to is going to be that public IP, and you're just going to leave this TTL there, and TTL as it is, and I think it's time to live, so this is, you just leave it as such, and you just add the record, and just like that, it's done. So I'm not going to delete this and redo it because it takes, like it says here, it might take 24 hours to propagate. I don't want to risk that because no. So if we come over to the actual website, so if we come over to that marvel.boatluna.io, it's going to lead us to this. So as you can see, it's a MERN application. So if we do that, it's going to work as it should. There we go. So it works perfectly as it should work. We have a database running. So if I go to characters and I type in Wolverine and I search that, as you can see, the characters comes up. If I click on this, I'm able to save to my database. And if I go to saved, that item is saved there. And this is coming from, this is going to be populated. The information is going to be populated. So this is currently in my database. As you can see, that's where it's pulling it from. This saved tab here. So that shows that our MongoDB is also set up. Everything's set up pretty much. So that's what we're going to be doing in this project. What we're going to be doing is rendering this application again. And all this is running via my VPS. So now that we understand what's going to be happening, I'm going to go ahead and let's just go back into manage, and I'm going to go ahead and open up my IDE. So within my IDE, I have the list of descriptions and what we're going to be doing, to the 10 different steps we're going to be taking in order to create this application. But first of all, let's go ahead and delete the folder that we had. So let's cd back clear, and let's just SSH into root at so we're going to go into SSH VPS information, and we're just going to take that IP address. It's going to be the same thing as your SSH IP, so you can take that as well. You make sure you have a very good password so no one SSHs into your account, into your VPS. So we're just going to do that and come into root, go ahead and enter. So now I got to install my passphrase for this, so let me just go ahead and do that, and I'll get right back with you guys. Okay, so now we have SSH right into our VPS. So we're currently within our server, and we can just, let's clear this out. So before we go further, let me just let's cd into this Marvel app, and actually let's cd out of it, and let's remove this file Marvel app, and it's just going to clear. There we go. Now if we go back to Marvel, as you can see, no such file or directory. At this point, it's not going to be working, so because we just deleted that. So I just did that to show you that we're going to be building this together from scratch. So to begin, what we want to do is we're just going to be following these rules. So one, we just connected to our VPS using SSH, so that's awesome. So now we want to update the VPS. Let's see, what we can do before we do that is let's go ahead and okay, I was gonna reboot the VPS and all that, but there's no point. So we just go ahead and do as this says. So we're just gonna update the VPS. So let's go ahead and grab this, and I'm gonna put all these so I'm just going to be putting all this within my description tag, so you're able to perform the same, carry out the same process as I'm doing. So you just copy that, sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade y. As you can see, it's going to update and upgrade. Just give it some time here. Awesome. So let's clear this. Now, what we want to do next is we're going to install Node.js. So we're just going to grab this. Actually, let's just grab all of this. There we go. Awesome. So now we have Node installed, so we can check to see what version. Yep, as you can see, we're running Node version 21.7.1. So this is going to give us this is going to install the latest version of the Node.js, which is version 21. And now we can clear that. So we just move on to step 4. So for step 4, we're going to install mongodb. Instead of typing everything out, we're just going to grab this and paste that in there, and it's just going to do it this way. So without going into detailed explanation, all this is literally just going to update. It's going to update first, and then it's going to install the mongodb. Then you're going to be able to start mongodb, and you're going to be able to enable mongodb. So you're doing this practically globally, because we've not made a different directory yet. So just as we say that, now that we have enabled MongoDB globally, we can now go ahead and clear this. What we want to do now is create our first directory. So this directory is just going to be called Marvel Heroes. There we go. Now we can cd into, so it's ls, so we can cd into Marvel Heroes. Clear. Awesome. So now that we cd'd into Marvel Heroes, what we want to do is we want to say we want to be able to install Git. So let's see, I believe that was not a step I put in here, but to install Git is pretty simple. All we're going to be doing is we're just going to copy this here, and this is going to be it. So let's just place this here, install Git, and we're just going to put that there, so that way I don't forget to put it in there. So we're still 10 technically. So sudo apt-get install git all, and when we do that, now we continue, and it's just going to install using that command. So like I said earlier, all these commands pertaining to these titles, so update VPS, install Node.js, all these commands here are also going to be posted in the description, so that way you don't have to look for these commands elsewhere. Okay, so now we can clear out of that. So what we want to do now is we're assuming that we have saved this project within GitHub. Sorry. So we want to be able to go to access our GitHub account and then grab clone the repository that this was saved to. So I'm not going to be going over how to save to GitHub. I can make that a different video if you guys want me to show you how to do that. I personally use GitHub desktop, so it serves as a proxy. That way I can just save things to my GitHub desktop and then push it to GitHub. But I can show you that another time. But in this video, I'm gonna guess that you guys know how to use Git and GitHub. So now that we have that, what we want to say is git clone, and now we're going to get the URL of our repository and then paste it in there. Okay, so I have my GitHub accessed over here. So I have git clone and the URL to that repository. As you can see, it's Marvel Heroes youtube.git, and once we hit enter, it's going to ask for the username to my github.com. So you just go ahead and pop in your username. Now it's going to ask for your password. So this is tricky. It's not asking for the password to just that you would put in to access your GitHub account. What it's asking for is a token that's generated for your GitHub. So when you go to your GitHub account and you head over to settings under your profile, so you'll see your little profile picture / silhouette. When you click that, scroll to the bottom, it's going to say sentence. At the bottom of the sentence, you should see developer access or tokens or something like that, generate tokens or whatever. When you click that, you're going to be asked to select from 2 different types of token generation. You want the one that does not say beta. You want the original, so the generate tokens. When you click on that, make sure before you generate the tokens, you give it permission for just repo. So to access the repo, that's the only permission that's going to be needed. And then you want to generate that token. And when you generate that token, just make sure you secure it, because you don't want that token getting out. So that way people don't, like this, you're not able to just use your repository or just gain access to your repository. So yeah, that's all you're going to do. And then you're going to take that password and you're just going to pop it in there. So I just copied and saved mine. So I have access to it. Now, what I'm saying when pertaining to getting the tokens and all that, if you guys want a detailed explanation to go along with it, I can make a different video for that. I can also respond in the comments if it's something I can just easily respond to without confusing you even more. But with all that said, let's get right back into the video. Okay, so now we have Marvel Heroes. If we ls, it's gonna say Marvel Heroes YouTube, right? So what we want to do is cd into Marvel Heroes YouTube. Awesome. So we are on step 5 still, and here if we put ls, I have a client and a server. So for the client, what I want to do is I want to make sure, actually before we go any further, within my client, if I didn't use Vite for this, so if you're using the same application that we built together, we did not use Vite, we used create React app. That was the command we used rather than Vite. So when we come over to our env.production local, so this is our production, you want to make sure that your React app backend that you're going to be using when it comes to all your routes is, or your API calls or anything like that, accessing the backend server, is what you're going to be using in development, in production. So like I showed you, my website, the subdomain is going to be marvel.boatluna.io. So you want to make sure that's going to be used. Ignore the top one. That's just a different, I just have it hosted in another server as well, not my own VPS. I hosted it somewhere else, and this one pertains to my VPS. So you want this, so you want to make sure that's the backend URL you're using. And then in your server file, you want to make sure you're allowing cores allow. You want to basically, when you use cores, you want to allow from access from https marvel.boatluna.io as well. So that's what we want to do. That's what we want to make sure before we go any further, because if not, it's not going to work. So since we have that out the way now, what we also want to do is within our client, we can cd into client, and then we want to install our dependencies for, let's clear this, npm install our dependencies for the client. So it's going to go ahead and do that. So just give it a couple of seconds or a minute or so, and it's going to go ahead and completely do that.
Music licensing reimagined.
All right, so that didn't take that long. So once we do that, now for our front end, we're not really going to be doing a lot in the front end. So once we do that, the next step we want to take is say npm run build, and that's going to build our React app and get it ready for production. So go ahead and build that. Oh, actually, there's one step we missed. So before we do that, we're going to have to run this build one more time. Before we do that, we're going to have to install our environmental. We're gonna have to place our environmental variables within .env, so that way we're able to our application is able to run is able to function perfectly. So the reason I didn't place that in here is because it's not a step that always has to be taken. It's not like a law, because your application might not have a .env attached to it. So the steps here are always going to be followed in order to deploy it, but that does not mean you're going to need a .env. So in order to create our .env, so just forget that you ran the build, you can always rerun it. So what you want to do is within client, you want to say vim.env, and you want to call it the same thing that is called here. So here it's called .env dot production dot local. That's what it's called here. So you want to go ahead and create that, and now you want to take this, the one that's pertaining to your backend URL, your VPS subdomain. You're gonna place it in there, and then to close Vim, you're gonna it's gonna be a colon, write and quit, so WQ, and then close out of it, clear it out, and then run that build again. And that's all we need to do. So if you don't have a .env attached, which if you're using like Vite or something like that, you probably won't do it this way. So this is only pertaining to this application, or an application that needs a .env in the front end attached to it. So once this runs like it has here, it's complete. Now we're all done with that. We can now cd out of here and cd into server and clear that out. Awesome. So now that we're in server, we also there's one thing I have to show you. So make sure within your server you have this path. So you have path required, and within our path, what we're going to be saying here is we want to be able to access via the backend the client, the build, and the index.html. And then here we're also going to be accessing the client and the build. So this is basically the backend's build command also that's going to be involved in the front end. So just make sure your application has something like that, or if you don't have this exactly, just make sure within your package.json you have some kind of build command that involves your client and as well as your server. So like I always say, if you have more questions on that, you can comment in the video, comment on the video and let me know what your questions are, or you can just request to have another video made pertaining to what I just spoke about. So here, since we have all that, what we want to do first is create our .env here. So our .env here, I'm not going to show you my .env here because it has a lot of sensitive information. So, but our .env, we're going to create this, and we're going to be placing whatever we need. Whatever's within our server.env, we're just going to place it in there, but make sure there's no space between your equal sign and your string or whatever. If you have an equal sign, just make sure there's no space between either side of the equal sign, and just don't put any additional space that doesn't need to be in there within within your .env file here. So let's just go ahead and do that, and I'll get right back to you guys once we're done with that. Okay, so just a reminder, once you create your .env, the way to get out of it, the way to save and get back to your command line is by using :WQ, and you'll pop right back over here. So now we can hit clear. Now we can install npm install, and we should be all good to go. Cool. Okay, now we can pop back into this. So what we want to do now is install PM2, which is just a process manager. So PM2 is going to act as our process manager, meaning and what a process manager is going to be doing for Node.js is imagine we run this server, we run everything, and our application is running online. So that's awesome. That's what we want. But the minute we close out of this IDE, or the minute we close out of this, we exit out of our VPS, that server is gonna like just stop working. It's gonna be done. We don't want that. We want our server to run whether or not we are logged into our VPS and running the server manually, or if we're logged out of the server. So regardless, we want our application constantly running. So that's pretty much what PM2 does. Now we can go ahead and state npm install PM2 at latest G, or you can just copy and paste this, same thing. So we're just gonna run that. Actually, we could just run that. We can just run that for the whole folder, not just the server. So let's cd out of here, and we're just gonna run this. Let's cd one more time, and let's run it in Marvel Heroes. So the name of the directory. So we're just gonna run it there instead. Cool. So now that we have that, now we want to install Nginx, and Nginx just serves as a reverse proxy for our application. And what that means is in our index.js, so if we come over to our index.js file for our server, it's going to say that our application, this server is running on hostname port, and a hostname is localhost, and it's running on 10,000, especially for local. It's going to be running at localhost 10,000. We don't, when we're online, in order to access the port online, you're going to need to use whatever the public IP address is, and add that port 10,000 to it. That is not good practice. We don't want people to just access a different port on your VPS. You want everything to come in via a protocol. So you either want it to be HTTPS or HTTP. You don't want any extra ports on there. So in order to do that, you want to keep running it on localhost 10,000. However, you're going to reverse proxy it. So anytime that localhost 10,000 is running, it's going to show as marvel.boat.luna.io. So in your URL. So that's basically what a reverse proxy is doing. So we just installed Nginx, I believe. Did we? Let's do that again. Okay, so we did not. So now we did that. So we go ahead and clear. And now we want to after we do that, we want to configure it as a reverse proxy. So we're going to create and edit a new configuration file. So we're just going to take this, and you don't need to use marvel.bolt.luna.io. You can use whatever you want to name your website. That way, whenever you're looking for your configurations, it's easy to get to. So I just named it what my website's going to be named. You don't have to, everything after this available backslash is should be your own title. So go ahead and do that. Now, as you can see, mine still holds. So let's go ahead and let's see. Let's just cut all this. Yeah, let's go ahead and cut all this. So it's going to be, I'm using a Mac, so it's going to be Control and, well, let's press Shift first and just select everything in here, so we can start fresh. And now it's going to be Control K. Awesome. So this is what you should see when you get in there. Just this GNU Nano 7.2. Make this bigger. So this is all you should see. So here we're just gonna grab all this. There we go, and we're just gonna paste it in there. And what we're doing here is, for server name, just make sure it's the name of what you're gonna call the domain name of your VPS, or the subdomain that your VPS points to. that the subdomain that's pointing to your VPS. So if not, you can always use your public IP address and place it there, but it's better to get a domain for it. So you can use the public IP address, and if you're going to go with the route of the port, you can also use the port. So it's going to look like rather than say localhost, it could be like 10.22.15.20 or something like that as your IP, as your public IP, and then a port would be like 10,000 or 5,000, and you can place that there. You don't need to put the HTTP or HTTPS as of right now. You just leave that there. And for your proxy pass, just make sure your proxy pass. So yeah, just make sure your proxy pass is, okay, that's working. That's fine. So make sure your proxy pass is the same as what your localhost port number is. So like I said in index.js, my port number is 10,000. So if I run this locally, it's going to say localhost 10,000, not 5,000. So we just go ahead and change that to 10,000. And then we can go ahead to save this, and that's all we're doing here. So that's all you have to configure. So to save this, you're just going to press Control and X, and yeah, Control X, and this is for you don't need to do all this. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. So Control X is going to exit out for you. I don't know why. There we go. So just make sure you're within the CLI, and then Control X. And remember, this is a Mac, so it could be Shift or Command. It should be like Command on a PC. I'm not too sure, but on a Mac it's Control X and then hit Enter. Oh, hit Yes with the Y, and then just hit Enter, and then you're all set. Just like that, you've created you've configured a file for your application, reverse proxy file for your application. So we can scroll to step 8, and then within step 8, now you want to enable that configuration by creating a symlink, and you can then test it. So in order to enable the configuration, you just copy this command, you place it in there, and it says, well, it says the file already exists. So we don't need to do that anymore. I don't, but when you do that, you're fine. So now sudo nginx t sudo nginx t. Okay, so the test failed. That means I didn't properly let's see. Yeah, that means I didn't, there we go, I didn't properly save this. So it's always good to test it, and you do so by running sudo nginx -t. So when I come over here, just make sure it has 10,000. There we go, and then we can exit and save, enter. So now let's run it again. Okay, and now it says the configuration file syntax is okay. So the test is successful. That's all we need. We can clear out of there. Yep. So we tested it. Now we cleared out of it, and let's hit clear again. And now we can reload nginx. So paste that and run that command, and it's been reloaded. We can clear out of that again. And now lastly, what we want to do is we want to secure our application with SSL, right? So we can come in. So basically we want our application to run in a URL under HTTPS, so under that port, and I believe that's 443. So we want it to run under that. So we want to install certbox and certbot and the nginx plugin. So what we want to do first is sudo snap install classic certbot. There we go. And it's saying mine's already installed, so it's probably not going to say that for yours. There we go. And here you just run this command as well, and then run this command. There we go. Because mine already exists, so you have an existing certificate that has exactly the same domains as certificate you've requested and isn't close to expiry. What would you like to do? you can just attempt to reinstall this existing certificate, renew or replace, or you can cancel. So this pertains to me because I already have that certificate. But for you, it's going to ask you when you run this for your email address in order to run in order to install and enable the SSL. So I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. There we go. I'm just going to hit cancel because I already have it. Now, once you do that, all you have to do now is open the necessary ports in the firewall. So now you want to allow Ubuntu to allow SSH, allow HTTP, and allow HTTPS, and you want to enable all of that. So let's go ahead and take these three first. There we go. And then you want to hit enable. Command may disrupt SSH connections. That's fine. Yes. Firewall is active and enabled on system startup. So what you want to do now is just check the status. So let's clear out of this, and now we can check the status. And as you can see, it's telling us that what's allowed and anywhere that it's allowed from, and it's allowed from anywhere basically. So if you have any specific ports, you're gonna have to like configure that, but these are the standard ports, port numbers. So 22 would be SSH, 80 would be HTTP, 443 would be HTTPS. So you just go ahead and clear this, and that's it. So now we can go back to our server. LS. Okay. CD Marvel Heroes YouTube. Whoop. Sorry. There we go. Now we can CD into our server. We can clear that, and now usually we would use npm run start or something, or npm start to run our server, but because we want to use use pm2, what we're going to say is pm2 and we're going to say run pm2 start, sorry, index.js. And I use index.js because in my package.json, my start command is node index.js. So we're taking node out and we're just using pm2 instead. So pm2 start index.js. So whatever your start command is what you're going to be using. So mine is start index.js. So when we do that, you can see I have two running. What I want to do is say pm2 stop. Let's stop. Let's delete all first. So delete all, clear, and now let's start over pm2 start index.js. Awesome. So now we only have this one, and according to this, it should be running. So that's what pm2 does. As you can see, we're no longer just like it doesn't show that oh, it's our local host is running or anything like that. It's just running in the background. So even if I close out of this or leave this VPS, so if I exit out of it, it's still going to be running. So now let's go back to our browser and let's see if it's marvel.boatluna.io. So this might take, yeah, it's going to take some time, but let's see. Yes, it's going to take some time. In fact, just to be sure that it's going to work, let's go back to this. So let's clear out of this. Let's cd back. Let's cd out of this. And here, let's just go back to this command. And for you, it should work automatically. For me, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. And I'm just going to pick number 1. There we go. So it just okay, so I just enabled I just reinstalled the cert box, so for the SSL. So let's see if this runs now. Awesome, it runs perfectly. So as you can see, HTTPS, it runs perfectly, and just like that, we're done. And another quick tidbit is you can also create the firewall for your VPS. So for me, I created this firewall called Marvel App Firewall. If you go into it and edit, it has 3 protocols, which is the HTTP, HTTPS, and SSH. So HTTP is port 80, HTTPS is port 443, and SSH is 22. And you can just go ahead and select that this way. So it's going to show you all that. It's going to tell you which source, meaning do you want it from anywhere, allow it from anywhere, or custom. And since we're picking accept, we're going to accept from any. So anything running within this 3 are going to be able to access our application. And once you're done, you're just able to save, and that's it. And it's just going to work automatically on your firewall. And that's pretty much all we're doing. So now if we come back here, as you can see, our application still runs. If we go to our saved, our database is still running. So with all that said, if you guys like the video, want more of things like this, just let me know and I will create more videos like this. But with all that said, once again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.